Hello, coffee makers, not coffee takers. He is Dr. Joseph J. Burt Miller Jr., and I am the master of cyber farms, Alfredzo B. Nash Jr. We are your hosts for the Cyber Coffee Hour. We are two cyber experts from Mount Vernon, New York, sharing with you the experiences in this field and also the experiences of others so we can learn, elevate, and ultimately realize that we all belong in this space. The views and opinions and thoughts of the Cyber Coffee Hours are not those of our employers or professional personal relationships. For today's episode, we are going to discuss recent cyber attacks in the island country of Jamaica. And to help us break it down, we have the honorable guest, cybersecurity analyst, Valeena Pinnock. Excuse me.
Yes. So our guest, and welcome everyone. Just want to introduce our guest here. Valeena has over 12 years of leadership experience in the hospitality industry. In 2021, she transitioned to IT, worked in tech support, and now is an IT security engineer. Within 3 years, she earned 9 IT certifications, including firewall administration and CCNA. Valeena enjoys all aspects of cybersecurity, and her ultimate goal is to attain her CISSP or Master's in Cybersecurity. Now, the certifications that she has earned are the CCSA, CCNA, the CompTIA Pentest Plus, CISA Plus, Server Plus, Security Plus, Network Plus, and A Plus. Oh, and one more, the AZ-900. Valeena, welcome to the Cyber Coffee Hour.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph. It's a pleasure for you guys to invite me here. So thank you, Mr. Nash, for having me.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. All right. So, and as Alfredzo mentioned, we have we're going to have a discussion relating to this recent cyber attacks that happened within Jamaica, and a couple articles that we're going to look at for this discussion. So the first one that I want to pay attention to, and Valeena, of course, we want you to be in this discussion with us as we go through it. So the first one I'm looking at here, the name of this article is Jamaica reports more cases of cyber attack. The author of this article is Joanne Clark, dated back in November 14th, 2023. So let's read a quick excerpt from the article. So cybersecurity consultant Gavin Dennis has shed light on a concerning trend in Jamaica where a significant number of cyber attacks remain undisclosed to the public. Dennis disclosed that the situation is far from isolated, stating that at least every week there is some other entity that is being compromised. He noted that while some of these incidents make it to the media, many remain private. He added that in such cases, persons turn to companies and individuals like him for assistance in resolving the cyber threats they face. So I'll stop right there. First, Valeena, I'll go to you. Just, I guess, quick thoughts. What comes to your mind, especially when you're talking about when certain cybersecurity incidents happen, but they try to keep it hush hush? Like I guess, what would be the reason for that, or why you think that happens?
Okay, so the reason why is that we, in terms of our laws in Jamaica, we recently passed the Data Protection Act. This act will, of course, if your company's breach and you're aware of a breach, it's your responsibility to let it be known to the public or let it be known to the individuals who have been, if their data has been exposed. But that act, even though it was passed, is not in effect until the next 6 months. So therefore, when companies are breached, they are not necessarily obligated to report incidents. So therefore,
Right.
there's going to be a situation where if you feel like, because it's going to really damage someone's reputation, a business reputation, and it sheds a bad light on that business or that organization. So that is why a lot of incidents go unreported.
Wow, so the public perception would tarnish the company when they disclose that breach report.
Yeah, a lot of companies do as well worldwide. Once if you're aware of that, there's a company that's been breached, then if you're going to do a business with that company, there's going to be a hesitation before you do that, and it's going to, if there's another alternative, you probably go that route. it's in the back of someone's mind is that, okay, if I'm going to do business with you, I want to have that trust that my data or my client's data won't be compromised. So then that is the mindset that someone who is in business or is going to do business with someone, they're going to want to know that, there's some security measures involved. It's unfortunate though for Jamaica though is that we are we don't necessarily have the infrastructure to protect data. We are making strides, I must say that, but definitely costs to protect a data, to implement measures. So because of us being a developing country, that it does definitely hamper us having the resources, whether the technical experts as well as just financial, just to get that the data protected.
So it's almost not that much different than what really happens within the United States. I mean, the biggest thing as to why some major companies, when they have these data breaches or cybersecurity breaches, what have you, they don't want to disclose it, or they take the time before disclosing, because as you mentioned, the reputation, that they don't want to lose business. Especially if they're in a market where the competition is very high, they don't want their competition to know that they had this breach and they may lose customers. I mean, Alfredzo, we talked about this when we had the recent the password manager, LastPass.
Yeah,
we had started off using LastPass to maintain our data, and then with the recent breach, I think it was really after the second one. Right? I think that's when we was like, all right, way out.
Yeah, the second one, because they kind of. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was just gonna say, like, after the second breach, I think that's when it was like, all right, we out.
we're out of here. They kind of hesitated between the second breach, which I'm kind of on the fence too, because I think what I get from the article is they choose not to disclose, but here in the States, some companies choose to make a mechanism for vulnerability disclosure reporting. So when I hear the companies have the choice, I think it's kind of like I'm kind of on the fence, because the company can take the initiative and be proactive to put a link to disclose the breach from outside entities. Now, business to business, that's a little difficult, because depending on when that Data Protection Act gets passed, there's still nothing like mandating to say you have to share with your business peers, right? So I think I would like to see something like a vulnerability disclosure inclusion or reporting, because even here, it's not really, I won't say it's not really taken off in the United States, but not everyone is doing that too. So I think I hear the point, Ray. We need to start discussing maybe including a vulnerability disclosure program inside of the Protection Act, right? Like how do they do it before the act came out? Like how were they telling even business partners about the disclosures? Were they doing that?
And one thing I'll pose this to you, Valeena, like, don't you think that maybe it matters as to what type of breach it is, or the type of company that the breach happened to? So let's say we're talking about maybe a bank, that's maintaining, the financial records for, X amount of customers, versus maybe a library, maybe just like login credentials got compromised. There may be some still PII, maybe, of course, names, addresses, maybe phone numbers, things like that. But if I'm looking at it, taking a step back, I think the bank breach would be much more significant than a local library. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do agree with you as well, because we in Jamaica, we have heard issues like persons are talking about it, but there's nothing in the media about banks, about, there have been maybe phishing attempts, or it's not necessarily from the end user perspective, but it's just that they have seen changes in their bank accounts, withdrawals that were not done, and was nothing that they did. So there are definitely breaches, there are definitely insider threats that take place within the banking system, but it's just not made public. So yeah, and then, because if it's made public, and most times when when there's a question proposed to the banks, they're going to say, we can't make that disclosure, or that's confidential, we can't speak about a customer's information like that. So it does get it does get hidden or swept under the rug per se, or just kept in the dark, but it's just not made public. But I'm sure they're like I would say every day there should be at some level some breach, because we really, again, we don't have the infrastructure in place. And I read this article yesterday where it speaks to the private sector, being the businesses, non-government businesses. They did a survey among themselves, and they found that if they were based on the Data Protection Act, there were maybe 7% of the businesses ready to implement the measures that were highlighted in the act. And they say maybe 50% of businesses have an incident plan, or they're cyber ready, like they have a good cyber hygiene. So it's very concerning. But again, I don't think we understand the urgency or the need to protect data or the need for cybersecurity. We're more like responsive versus being proactive
Right.
in situations. Yeah.
No,
So
and that's great because I'm sorry, Alfredzo.
yeah, you got it.
No. What was your point? I want to get back to the article, but I'll let you.
Yeah,
get your
no,
point.
that's what I was going to do. Let's go back to the victimology. Can we talk about what Shop Courts is and what their primary function is in Jamaica? Like, what is Shop Courts in the Price Mart that was the victimized here?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What is the Shop Courts website? Like, what function does that have in Jamaica?
Yeah. So recently, I would say I looked at the statistics. I would say, like, they said that there's 100% increase in cyber attacks, and a couple of them would have been the Quartz. Quartz in Jamaica is a local furniture store. It is actually in the Caribbean, so it has multiple different locations here and other Caribbean countries. And the data of customers were on the dark web, so that was exposed. And I think it wasn't brought. It wasn't like it was after it was brought to their attention that they said something about it. So it was exposed. A lot of times when they were contacted, they're like, "Oh, there's nothing left to sort." But then when it was said, "Okay, reveal that this is data, this was stolen from your website," that was when they came forward. Similar to PriceSmart as well. PriceSmart is it's similar to what you call a Walmart, but small, Jamaican size Walmart.
Got
Yeah.
it. Got it.
So to picture
So
Walmart, but Jamaica. Yeah.
So in the article. In the article, it said the stats was 200,000 orders. I guess in that order is the PII Joseph was referring to, right? Customer invoicing, credit card information.
Yeah.
All of that went out the door during this particular attack.
Yeah. So when that was exposed, then they were honest about it and said that this happened. But I wasn't a customer with PriceSmart, so I don't really know what they did individually. But yeah, they disclosed their incident to the public. But there's just so many more incidents that takes place on a regular basis, and it's just not reported. So the ones who do report it, at least I would give them a level of respect for doing that.
So no, I think that's great. And just giving context to what Alfredzo mentioned. So within an article, the cyber consultant Gavin Dennis. So he, I guess, in his report, he indicated that the recent incidents, included data breaches at those e-commerce platforms we just talked about, shopcourts.com and PriceSmart. He said that these type of incidents occur weekly. Like I said, many of them remain private. He also emphasized the evolving nature of cybercrime, citing the lucrative aspects of it and reduce physical risk compared to traditional crime. I think when you're talking about when they reduce physical risk, actually really spoke to me, because we're talking about even like nation state actors as to why like warfare has changed from being more physical to now it's more technical or cyber, because that it's less costly. You can carry out an effective attack from a keyboard as opposed to buying missiles and rockets and what have you. Utilizing soldiers, honestly, man and woman power. But I think with that said, that makes it more attractive, or makes it like I said, this is a quick way for a bad actor to say to make money and to keep doing it. If something that's repeatable doesn't cost too much, and they can do it again, and they could do it at scale. They could do it to other vulnerable sites, vulnerable organizations that don't have a robust cybersecurity program in place.
Yeah, I'll speak to that a little bit. It says it was the Alpha V hackers again, and we talked about them a little bit, and that shows the scale of these operators saying, "Well, you can't catch me." Right? They know there's a difference between physically going to attack this particular e-commerce chain versus where their posture may not be correct in invading it. Like you said, it's an invasion, right? They're going after the customer orders. They know they can have a maximum yield of victims, orders that they've taken, and no one is going to catch them or retrieve that information. So one thing I noticed too is no one's going to do the data retrieval. So a lot of these groups know that. A lot of these groups know that if I can ransom the data, steal it, and put it on the dark web, who's going to retrieve it on behalf of the commerce company? If they're part, if they can't. I don't know how it is in Jamaica, but you can speak to that too. But I know in the United States, you can't even do that. So a lot of these groups know that there's a false sense of protection in who's going to come get the data back from me.
Right.
you know.
But if I interject, a lot of times they do ransomware, so they'll encrypt the data, or they'll do data exfiltration. But in encrypting the data, they'll say, your data is encrypted. You can't use your server. You can't use your systems until you pay X amount. Most times it's in Bitcoins because there's a degree of security when you pay in cryptocurrency. So that is what a lot of the actors will do. Because I've heard of a situation where the servers were encrypted and it was just not possible for them to, when the hackers reached out and said, okay, we encrypt your data, we'd need this amount, paid to us, and this is the account. And then they didn't even wait around to negotiate. They're like, if you want your data back, this is the amount, this is where you send it, and that's it. So they didn't even respond to any other communication. So if you're not going to pay it, then there's no room for negotiation. They'll just move on to someone else. And when I did my pen test, I found it was surprisingly, before I go into the pen test part, but I read a news article recently where it says that there are so many outdated systems still in business environments, outdated. There's Windows XP. Windows XP doesn't have end of life support stopped since 10 years ago, and there's almost 1% in the business world has Windows XP running. So imagine like outdated servers, outdated vulnerabilities, that there's just no patch available for these systems that are still in environments. And it's just easy to just sit at home, set up your PC, set up your VMs, run a vulnerability scan to check okay, if this system doesn't allows for remote RDP, you can just RDP into this system without even a username and password. You can do that, or you could just send a phishing link and have establish that connection inside where someone clicks on a link and give you. There's just so many ways that a hacker can just sit in the comfort of their home and just execute these attacks. And as I said, the outdated systems, the fact that we don't have this robust infrastructure in place, there's no patching sometimes, it's just here and there. And the fact a lot of people don't see the value of IT security until it's too late. That's what I've always noticed. It is too late. There's ones where Uber, they didn't see the need for like a CISO until they got hacked. And then there were like 15 jobs available in IT security at Uber just because they got hacked. So it's so easy for hackers to just sit at home and just do this and just, as you say, rinse and repeat. They check. They'll just scan a subnet and see what's available, what's vulnerable, and they'll just execute the same payload, multiple, worldwide.
While they're watching Netflix at home, they're hacking away Netflix movie.
Automated. It is you can automate this. It's
so can we talk to the scale too? PriceSmart is not just in Jamaica, right? It's throughout the Caribbean, right?
Yeah,
so
it's
PriceSmart
throughout the Caribbean as well, and Court.
So that gives you an idea of the scale that these hackers know the scale at which these commerce sites have access to orders and information like that. So I hate to say it, but that gives me the eyes, to your point, Joseph, as somebody not even thinking militaristically. There's not much sophistication if all those systems are the same. If they're all legacy, they're all antiquated, they're all over throughout the Caribbean. It takes, like you said, somebody maxing, relaxing in their living room to say, oh, this is the same site. This is the same victim, right? Everywhere they exist.
They didn't learn.
Right.
So they're going to keep hitting them.
Right.
That's what they do, because in the news too as well, Trinidad, which is a fellow Caribbean country similar to us, they have definitely had their fair share of cyber attacks. That has been reported in the news too as well. So it's a lot Caribbean wise. But we do have a body, a CARICOM body that is all CARICOM nations, mainly English speaking countries, that I just feel like we at this point we should band together, because we're so small in size. So it's really about us coming together and knowing that we have a real issue on our hands. It's just not just, wars that are physical war, but there's also the electronic or the cyber wars that we have to protect ourselves from.
Absolutely. So, looking at the second article that we have here from the Jamaica Gleaner, this is dated back 6 September 2023, titled Cyber Attack at Financial Services Commission. It's a quick article, but I'll just read a little bit from it. So the Financial Services Commission, or FSC, issued a statement acknowledging a cyber event and stated that a team of cybersecurity experts from the Jamaica Cyber Incident Response Team, JASCERT, and the Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency, or MOCA, is actively assessing the extent of the incident. The FSC emphasized its commitment to protecting personal information and data, taking the security of its system seriously. The Commission assured that it is operational and cautioned stakeholders about potential response delays and processing times. The FSC is working diligently to address the situation promptly. Yeah, Valeena, I'm going to go to you.
I don't know share much.
I have to bite my cheek for a
share
second.
is that this is a body that will oversee in terms of financial regulations. So it does put their reputation on the line when they have a cyber breach, because if you're a body there's a certain expectation from you, and just the fact that they were breached, it really shows again the urgency of how well needed it is that we have good cyber hygiene or cyber practices for everyone. Because if they're the governing body for the Financial Services Commission, then there people are looking to them, or other financial institutions are looking to them for the guidance. And the good thing about it is that they should learn. I would say an incident is an opportunity to learn how to improve or how to do better. So I'm hoping that would be the result of it, that it happened to them and they will be able to say, okay, this is serious, and of course offer support to their body, to their members.
Right. Can we speak to, so I hear the importance of the commission, but one thing I take from this article is that there's a separate JASCERT incident response team. That wasn't the FSC's team. Where is that team? How is that team organized in Jamaica?
So that was, I'm not sure the year that it was organized or the year it came into, but that is it's basically an cybersecurity incident and response team formed by the government to be able to respond to cybersecurity breaches, which I think is good. But we also need a governing body to also be proactive in terms of, well, I do know that Data Protection Act is going to do well if it's enforced and businesses comply with it. But we also need a body, a cyber body that is proactive in ensuring that standards, or all, whatever standards that we have are implemented properly, versus just a response. But the response body is really good. I love that idea. That is something that was well needed, but we do definitely need to have something proactive as well in place.
Right. So that team is only for government entities. They're not responding to private companies like the PriceSmart, right?
I'm not 100% sure, but I do know it is a government body that is formed. I'm not sure if it's for private and public, but I do know most of the time when I read articles about it, it's for the government. They've responded to government incidents, cyber incidents.
Got it. Yeah.
So this last article, this one is titled "Addressing the Weaknesses in Jamaica's Internet Affordability, Availability, Relevance, and Readiness." I thought this was a really good one. This was authored by Brianna Hagigal. I hope I'm not checking for her name. If you're listening, I'm sorry. This is dated back June 19th, 2023. So let's read a little bit from here. So she provides a very well done, I'd say, examination of Jamaica's ranking in the 2022 index and comparing it with other leading nations in that same index, shedding light on the country's efforts to bridge the digital divide. The index provides a comprehensive evaluation of various factors that contribute to internet diffusion, such as availability, affordability, relevance, readiness, and usage. It serves as a valuable resource for policymakers, researchers, and stakeholders in understanding the digital landscape and its impact on economic and social development. To gain a broader perspective, it's essential to compare Jamaica's index rating with other leading countries that have made significant strides in digital connectivity. Countries such as South Korea, Singapore, the United Kingdom, and the United States are often hailed as global leaders in terms of internet diffusion. I'll stop there. I guess Alfredzo, just real quick, what's top thing that comes to you after hearing that?
I heard my favorite topic about how do you defend without the readiness, right? So in that article you mentioned the economic readiness, the stewardship and ranking that the particular analyst did. I think without that digital diversity, let's just say, or digital bolstering, how do you defend the country, right? How do you do a good job of defending the country if you don't have that readily diffuse internet infrastructure? Like to your point, Valeena, right? That's a big milestone that helps you not only report the information that's being shared, because we just discussed that, but the fact that this person is from the JAWS CERT team highlights that they're looking at their infrastructure to be prepared for what might come, even the advancements, not even just the cyber side, like economic advancements, my favorite, right? How do you advance the economic goal in that same index without a decent internet diffusion? So I hear readiness. I heard that, and I hear they're preparing to increase the diffusion in order to bolster the country's defenses. See, I almost slipped up there. The country's defenses.
I got what you said.
Yeah, Valeena, I guess maybe first thoughts on that.
I think for me, in terms of the Internet Diffusion Index, a well-written article too as well. Right. I must say I did some additional research to find out what's the percentage in terms of accessibility to internet. And I read that there are 82% of the population, 82% of the population currently has some level of access to the internet, whether it's through their smartphones or, not necessarily the stablest connection, but we do have internet service providers. The internet service providers, because there is more like a duopoly, so they're not, I wouldn't say duopoly, there are probably some small providers, but the fact that there are not many, in a market when you have more demand versus supply, then prices, that kind of drives up the prices. So there's a cost factor to accessibility of data or accessibility to the internet in Jamaica. It does cost businesses to set up that infrastructure, to run the fiber and everything. So just the fact that there's a cost to it, and as I mentioned, being a developing country, we don't necessarily have the resources of a first world or a developed country to implement or to have the readiness that we are looking for, because the goal that our ministers are driving, the goal to be a knowledge-based economy, but it takes infrastructure, it takes money as well to really have this in place for everyone, the accessibility. And then there's another thing that was mentioned too as well, in terms of the relevance of information that is needed for us as a Caribbean country, because we may focus on something different versus America or Europe. So the report was good because it highlighted our opportunities, but I do know that even with the opportunities highlighted, I think Jamaica is in a good place. We just really have to focus on improving what we have to get to that level.
Right. So part of that within the article, the author mentions or gives that recommendation of strengthening privacy regulations, promoting cybersecurity awareness, enhancing the security of government digital platforms to build trust. And I think we talked about that already, as far as the protection of or the enhancement or fortifying government digital entities, I should say. So I thought that was very very telling that the author even points that out to say Like, look, these government digital platforms, they need to make sure that they're connected. You want me to do all this, you need to make sure your stuff is up to snuff as well.
Right. And that's something that echoes familiar with the United States, right? Like the previous article just highlighted that the commission didn't have that digital platform standard, maybe resources, right? The allocation of this particular CERT team, the staffing of it, right? That comes with that comes with the information sharing, right? The part that Valeena's mentioned is you have to share which sites can be bolstered up, which sites have been particularly, have a weaker hygiene. And then now that the government can't say you do this thing and we have a weak, infrastructure, or we have a weak standard of protecting our environment. So I took that from the article too. Improving that awareness and sharing the information is a key attribute to get the infrastructure where it needs to be. Digital platforms, the trust between them, and the trust between government and private, at least in this article, sounds like it's being established from the indexes, metrics, from the data that they're collecting right now, or trying to be established.
So the author even made comparisons with other countries like the Dominican Republic and Trinidad and Tobago, highlighting differences, in the infrastructure development and connectivity challenges. So, Valeena, I have one question. So, like, as far as within Jamaica, like, what are the top or the most prevalent ISPs or internet service providers in Jamaica right now? Maybe for home, and then if you can answer the question again for like mobile, like what are the top providers or internet providers?
Yeah, the top providers do both the Wi-Fi and they also do mobile as well. So they do home. So the top two would be Digicel and Flow. We do have some smaller ones. I know off the top of my head, Island Net. I'm not familiar with the others. But there are some smaller ones. But Flow and Digicel, they provide majority of the island with internet access, both as well as mobile as well.
Yeah, I'm more familiar from my time going to Jamaica, Digicel, but you said Island Net. Is that
Island
fairly
Net.
new?
Yeah, that is fairly new. I didn't even know about Island Net until I started working at my new job. And they're like, Island Net. And I'm like, what is that? They're like, ISP. I was like, oh, thank you. So I wasn't aware of them before. So they're smaller. I guess they're maybe less than 5 years. Don't quote me. I'm just thinking that they're just very new.
Gotcha.
And as service providers, I'm sure they have a cyber awareness to keep that provider protected. Is that something they share with the government, or is that something that has been in discussion with those three ISPs?
I've not seen anything, but I'm really of the hope that they're working to as well to maintain and assist with the infrastructure, because it's not a one man, it's not just the government, it's businesses recognizing, as well as ISPs recognizing that cyber threats are real, and if we don't step up our game or don't make adjustments, then it can go really fast bad. Because yesterday too as well, I saw where Microsoft got breached. It wasn't a big breach, but to see that Microsoft got breached, then who are we as smaller entities or smaller island? We have less than 3 million in population, so we're really tiny. So it is really critical or important for us to put steps in place.
Right. There doesn't seem to be any limit, or I guess the shock factor. I'm pretty kind of numb to it. I'm sure Alfredzo is as well. I mean, the White House got breached, so I mean, it's no one is safe.
It's no safe haven, no
harbor. I was reading the Microsoft one too as well. It was just pretty basic. It was just a password, brute force, try multiple passwords until they hack it, because there was just no 2FA implemented, and it was like a test environment that was hacked, and from there they were able to, escalate privilege, something of the sort. And I was like, wow, that's
that's really annoying. You know what I'm saying? Because like you hear about these big organizations, and when they get breached, you kind of find out in their analysis that they had the password was password 123. Or there's something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, are you kidding?
And I heard we had outdated systems and password spray. Shout out to the OWASP top 10 and top 20, right? Because not as a pen tester, you could read that and see those are the two mostly reported, right?
Something else to do with that, and it's more like a tedious tedious thing to do, because before I got into IT security, but now when having that strong password or having a 2FA additional form of protection. But a lot of people, especially IT as well, I'm not talking about for the person, non-IT person, I'm talking about IT. Sometimes it seems like it could be an additional, work for us to just implement the security. And security is not just for the security team alone. Security should be every area of our organization, because you are as strong as your weakest link. So if that user awareness training is so critical, and just having great policies without having the implementation of those policies really just
it's a low
you
lift. Yeah, there's nothing.
Right.
There's no mandate. There's no enforcement without the policy.
Yes.
People kind of get the choice to pick what they want to do.
And that goes along with what we're saying about cybersecurity awareness. And so as I mentioned, we're working in the industry, knowing the importance of implementing the 2FA or multi-factor authentication or things like that, using strong passwords or even passphrases. But someone who's not working in the field, and you gotta look at your parents or like relatives or anything like that, anybody like that's have passwords and they got like the same password for multiple accounts, or they got it all written down on a sticky note on their screen. You come sit down, all the passwords exposed.
That hurts.
You got to inform, you got to teach. But yeah, that does go. That's all part of the awareness. That's all part. I think the teaching element of it that I think honestly it's lacking, because without that, if people don't understand the true importance, because you don't want to wait until after something significant happens, because if you wake up one day, you look at your bank account and it's all maxed out because someone hacked your account because your password was password 123. Then you'll learn. But you don't want to wait till then, till something like that happens. You want to, like you said, Valeena, as you mentioned, being more proactive. You don't want to be reactive for those type of things, because they're happening. They're happening every day, constantly, every second, honestly. So you really got to protect yourself, making sure if you're looking at your system, make sure you have the latest antivirus. That's another thing too. People not even putting antivirus programs on their systems. Right. They're like, I got to pay for what? I got to pay for that?
How can you put that on the outdated? Just to double dip a little bit. How can you put the latest and greatest antivirus on something that's not supportable?
Some people still like XP, man. They still want the XP.
The other side, I just realized
XP, too. I kid you not.
The other side, I realized how important it is to somebody. Do they see the criticality of needing to update? Like the one thing I don't like to say is, everyone thinks it's not important to update until something bad happens. Why is there no mindset to be diligent or be more defensive because something will happen? All these news articles we just covered prove that it is a consistent need to stay,
because they don't think it'll happen to them until it happens to them.
Until
I think that's so naive, though. Like,
but I don't. Other side, I was on the other side of it, like non-IT. So to me, it was when before I got into cyber security, I thought it was an inconvenience. I thought that just spending that extra 2 minutes just to set up your 2FA, to download your authenticator, to set it up, I just thought that was just too much. 2 minutes, right? You have 24 hours in a day. How easy could it be? But a lot of times, that's why we have to change our thinking. It really comes with knowledge, like informing or educating the population, educating the users, educating the entire organization, because all the hacker needs is just one vulnerable system, one vulnerable user, one person clicking on a phishing link, and then or one outdated system that has a vulnerability that wasn't patched. That's all. That foothold is what they will need, and from there we can just replicate quickly. So because we don't have that user awareness, then of course we just think it's an inconvenience versus it's a necessity.
So I'm gonna pose this question to both of you. Do you think it matters when we're talking about cybersecurity awareness? Do you think it matters who's saying that we need to be more aware about cybersecurity? I mean, so I'm not saying that I'm not talking about, yes, we all agree that cybersecurity awareness needs to be done. We need to have training, things like that. But as far as for it to resonate with people, do you think it matters who is saying it? Who is saying, hey, you need to implement this, or you need to get a password manager or implement 2FA, do you think it matters who is saying it, or you think it doesn't matter at all? Valeena, if you can go first, please.
For me, I think it matters because most times, again, people look at IT security as an inconvenience, as something extra to do. But if the head, we ultimately look to our head or to our division head or department head in any organization. So if they're on board with it and it's a culture, if it's a culture of security is everyone's responsibility versus just the security department, then you see something or you say something or you have that in the back of your mind that, I'm making sure that my job is secure, I'm making sure that my company is secure. So it really matters where it's coming from. It shouldn't just necessarily be from the security department or from HR. It has to be from the top, from the CEO, from the president, whoever is in
Right.
charge should, because a lot of times the spear phishing attacks start with a CEO and it can also replicate, so it really starts with the head going all the way down. So it's not just IT security's job or the security department. It's really everyone's responsibility to protect what we have.
Alfredzo.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think it's a matter of, and we're gonna start it here, right? Food, water, shelter, cybersecurity,
I
right? It
think
should be exactly the
yeah,
same level of
technology needs
readiness,
protection. Yeah.
right? If
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing those things as an organization, if I'm doing a disaster recovery plan, incident response plan, it's all resonates with being ready for that incident. And me, I kind of agree. It doesn't matter. It should be a top down, definitely, like your CISO, your CMO, CTO. Everybody should have that readiness mindset of food, water, shelter, cybersecurity. And once the other things are established, they're just as important. You can't protect the organization today without them, right? So your disaster recovery planning feeds into that. Your IRP, some of your fiscal responsibility might pay into that. I think it shouldn't matter who say it because it's a need. There's a need to be ready in the cybersecurity space because we see these incidents every day, every hour now.
Yeah.
So now it becomes, how do I protect the other three? My shelter, food, and water rely on cybersecurity protection, data protection. So that's
Also,
my
I know I
thought.
already spoke. I know I already said something, but just to add to that, if people see the value of it, meaning that they could lose their job or lose businesses, if they see that there is a financial cost to not having good cyber hygiene, then it will probably be more of an awakening to them. Because if I stand to lose my job, meaning that a business, you lose customers, you could go out of business, you eventually lose a job because the company's reputation is on the line. So if you're seeing it from that aspect, like the bigger picture, then
Right.
then that's where you say, okay, what can I do to ensure that this doesn't happen? Because it's again being everyone's responsibility. It means that we have to see, okay, what's in it for me? I could lose my job because not necessarily because of a phishing link, but just because of the repercussions of it. So yeah, that's
Right.
where I would think the level that we need to think at.
Right. Yep. This is good stuff. Enjoyed this conversation. This was good. Hopefully things will change. Mindsets will change. But just given how things have gone, I think it's going to be a
Long
while.
road. Yeah, it's a long road.
But no, this was good. All right, so we're going to transition to strictly Valeena now. No articles, just strictly Valeena. But no, we're going to use this time to really just learn more about you, Valeena. I'm very interested to just learn more about your story as it pertains to cybersecurity. Just going off from, maybe you could just share a bit, just what prompted you to get started in cybersecurity? Like what were maybe the motivating factors for you? I guess like from where you started and what really kept your interest, what kept your interest and what kept it going as it pertains to cybersecurity.
Yeah. I'll give it a best shot as I can. So I got interested, or my interest was started being interested in cybersecurity in 2020. So that was when the heights of COVID, work at home. So what happened in 2020 was that I lost my job, and losing my job in the hotel, because I was in the hotel industry for 12 years, working different positions within the food and beverage management leadership roles. But when COVID hit, the hotel that I worked closed for maybe it was a month or two. And then when they reopened, they told me that I would be there's a word for it. It's a retrench word, but I wouldn't necessarily be fired, but I would just be like, they would call me back whenever they need me again. So I didn't get the call back. So
Wow.
that was really what
Would
happened.
would it be like furlough? Like
That is the word,
so
furlough. Yeah,
Furlough.
yeah,
furlough.
Okay.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
furlough.
yeah.
Yeah, that
Okay.
is the word. So I got furloughed, and it wasn't like I
Mm,
was fired or anything, but I got furloughed that turned into full termination. So I
Mm.
decided then that I wanted to switch to another industry that would be more pandemic resistance, if there's such a word, meaning that if there's another pandemic, and in 2020 it was everyone was on high alert that we didn't know
right.
when things would go back to normal, if there was ever going to be a new normal. There's just so many unknowns. So I said I wanted a career that would be less prone to a virus, or less prone to a global uh, situation that we had,
Pandemic.
pandemic.
Right.
Yeah, global pandemic. So that's when I got started. That's when I was looking at options. And before I got into cybersecurity too as well, I did a few other things on the side. I tried to start my own business, a couple businesses actually, and they didn't do so well. So
Mm.
at that point, it was when I got retrenched, I did not feel bad. I was like, yes, this is the time for me to do something new. So I was doing multiple different things, and there was just no success. So I tried drop shipping, total failure. I tried some other things. I tried started a business too as well. That didn't go so well. So I was like, okay, what exactly do I like? What do I think would hold my interest? And not necessarily revert back to the hospitality industry. So I was living in the States at that time, and because my work visa was tied to my job, losing my job meant that I had to leave the States. So I
Oh.
was there for
No.
5 years, and that was I just decided that, okay, I love my country. Jamaica is a beautiful place. So I went back to Jamaica in 2020, September of 2020. But when I was in the States, I had a housemate, a roommate. She said, let's try cybersecurity, because she was going to lose her job too as well. And she's
Mm.
like, oh, let's get into cybersecurity. It's easy.
Oh.
It's she had a
Whoa.
friend who
Easy.
told her that it was easy to get into. And so this before I left the States, I did try. So she introduced me to the idea around August before I left in September. So I looked at
Mm.
the material and I saw that it was the opposite of easy. It was surely
Mm.
was easy. It
Right.
surely wasn't easy
Like,
for
girl, what are
sure.
you talking about? This ain't easy.
Yeah, but she was like, her friend said it's easy, lots of people, you just have to pass this Udemy course, do this Udemy course, and then get your certification. It's going to be so easy. I looked at the first material that I could find on cybersecurity, on Security Plus, whatever it was, and I said that was not easy. IT is not easy. So I said that wasn't for me. So I just left it at that. When I got back to Jamaica, I was still exploring other options. And then a friend, I think it was just divine redirection, in the sense that I would get persons reaching out and say, okay, you could try this, because a friend reached out to me and said, LinkedIn is offering a free month course that you could check out all the courses for free, and then
Right.
from there you could see what you like. And so I went on LinkedIn. I found Professor Messer's A plus course, and
Mm.
he's so good at explaining stuff. He spoke my language in a sense, and from there I got the interest. I got the drive again to start pursuing the whole cybersecurity, because
Right.
I would watch videos to say, if you can't go straight to Security Plus, you can try maybe A plus, or try the foundations, and then from there you can go and build until you get into security. So that was really how I got into the world of cybersecurity. So
So we're not gonna let you off the hook that easy, because we see 9 certifications. So you
oh,
ran a gauntlet from A plus to where you are today. What was the driving factor running that like not so easy obstacles? Like, what obstacles that you have to overcome? How did you run the gauntlet from the A plus to 9 certifications? And my caveat to that too is, why did you think that was required? Okay,
why
so
did I what?
why did you think 9? Like, how did you get to 9 certifications? Did you think that was
Certifications.
required?
No, it was definitely not required, but how I got to the 9 certifications, it was, I didn't know. I knew what my first step was, because sometimes when you see like when you have a goal that I want to get into cybersecurity, but I didn't necessarily have a mentor. I was just watching YouTube videos. I would join the CompTIA Ready group, and then they would say, okay, do this, or this is what I did. So I didn't necessarily have like a goal in terms of what I would have done, but I just knew that, okay, I could have gotten my A plus first, then followed by my network plus, the trifecta, which would have been security plus, and then and so when I got my first two certifications, which would have been network plus and A plus, I didn't have a job at that point. So
Got
when I
it.
got those
Yep.
two certifications, I didn't have a job. I never worked at a data center. I didn't know. They were describing switches. I never saw a real switch in my entire life. I told you guys before, I didn't know
Yeah.
what an IP address was. I just had a
Right.
fascination for computers. I got a fascination for how does data travel. So it was always in the back of my mind, but I just never did anything, because at my old job or my previous job in hospital industry, working as a manager, you're working 12, 15-hour shifts. It's really hard for you to get that time to just really focus and study. So to me, losing my job was a blessing. It didn't feel like a blessing at first, but
Right.
just having that time to just spend 8 hours or 10 hours studying, because I did 3 exams before I actually step foot in a data center.
Nice.
So I'm just learning concepts. Like
Right.
for my network plus, I didn't know what I was. I thought I knew what I was studying, and when I did that exam, it was one of the lowest scores I got. I got maybe 740. The pass mark was 720. I got 740 on the score. I don't know how I passed that exam, but I had the worst headache afterwards, because it just, I had a drive. I knew I wanted to do this, but I didn't
Yeah.
know how hard it was.
Right.
So when I did that exam, I didn't know that I didn't know that it was at such a big mountain. They were just sharing stories on Reddit and said, oh, I passed my certification today, and this was the materials I did it in 8 weeks and whatever. And I'm like, how did you do that when I'm here struggling, you know? But
Right.
the long and short of it was that I wanted to do it, and I had a drive. I think one of my characteristics about me is that I'm very determined. So if I see something that I want, I don't always settle for a no, because there are so
Mm.
many of my friends that reach out and say, when I told them, I'm going to go in IT security, and mind you, I did my exams early in 2021, my A plus and my network plus. I didn't start working until June 2021. So all this
Right.
time, so when I'm telling my friends, my close friends, that I'm studying IT and I'm going to IT security, they're like, you have a job? I'm like, no. They're like, you sure about this? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get a job somehow. So yeah,
Wow.
it took a lot to just stay focused, knowing that I may or may not have gotten a job in IT security, or gotten a job in IT for, I don't think I would have gotten a job, by the way, but I just said, I have this spare time. I can do this. I can do this until something happens. And that was what kept me going.
It prevailed because of that.
Yeah, pretty
So,
much.
so as you mentioned with your friend, when your friend said that, yeah, do cybersecurity is easy, and then because I felt like it's a bit of like neurological shaping, because and Valeena, you let me know how you feel about this, but if she was to shape it to say, hey, let's do cybersecurity, it might be challenging, but I think we can do it. Do you
Yeah.
think that would have given you, because I think after that, as you said, you was like, when you first looked at it, it's like, oh man, this ain't easy. What the hell is she talking about? But
Yeah.
but if she was to shape it or frame it into a way to say, I think cybersecurity looks promising, but it's not going to be easy. But I think we could do it. Do you think that would have shaped your mindset, or you would have had a different attitude going into it at first? Because you said you had from that first instance, when you saw it wasn't easy, you dropped off and then you came back. Do you think that played a big role as to that initial influence?
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's where the seed was planted, like the initial interest, because how she brought it across was like, it's easy to get into. And she's like, oh, get this, just go on Udemy, select the security courses, do them, and once you pass it, then you can apply for a job. She didn't even tell me that I had to do a certification or anything. But I think that just the initial thought that it is possible, or it is doable versus, it is challenging. Yeah, that would have made it. That first thought was that it's easy. So I just went with that mindset that it is possible. So yeah.
So
I'm sorry, just one follow. The only reason I bring it up because I think that is a problem with, especially within the United States, of how cybersecurity is marketed.
absolutely,
Because you always hear these commercials say, "Hey, study cyber for 6 months and get a job for 6 figures, or whatever." Man, that is not. People think they treat it like it's a get rich quick scheme, and I hate the way it's being portrayed. So just like I said, that real life example of your friend and the way, and also, does your friend work in the field? Does she work in IT?
you got ahead of
No?
me.
No, no,
That
she's
was my
not.
next question.
Oh,
She
sorry.
tried it too. She tried. She definitely tried, but she
She,
went back to her. She got another job in her same field. So I was the one
awful.
who transitioned, but she did not.
And
But
she's not
I
It
even.
was
wasn't
so
that easy.
She's
thankful.
not even right.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
so thankful that she said that, because at that point I was exploring so many different options, right? And she was
Right.
the one who said that. And then if she hadn't said that, then I probably wouldn't have delved in the world of IT or cybersecurity. So I'm thankful that that conversation occurred, and I was with her at that time, so that could have planted that seed of interest that grew over a period of time.
Did you have an imposter syndrome at any point during your journey?
Yes, I definitely suffered from that. I think as women too as well, we suffer from imposter syndrome, but self-doubt, meaning that we we just internalize a lot of things. So for me, in the onset, when I first got my first IT job, well, this is my second, so my job before
Yeah.
this one, when I started working, it just felt like all these guys had all these years of experience, and all these, they're just so knowledgeable, and they just had everything. And this was just me coming in very new. There's a time I wasn't able to differentiate what a HDMI cable is versus a USB cable. So it was just the initial.
Wow.
I think too as well, even now, but not to the extent. But before, it was like, I just doubted myself a lot, and I think that really pushed me to study the way I did, because for the last 3 years I've literally studied almost every single day for maybe an hour or two. On weekends I probably do as many hours as I can, just so that I could feel in my mind that I'm measuring up to the persons around me, which it's a good drive, but it also means that I may have like a confidence issue, which I need to work on. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have to push myself that hard, but I don't know. It's a good, but it can be bad as well. So I suffered from that, and I've said to myself, I've really given myself these speeches and saying, I may not know something now, I may not be at that level that I need to be at, but with the right dedication and the right effort, I can get to the level that I need to be at. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So let's speak to that too. I see you said you had the goal in the beginning. You said you had the goal of obtaining the CISSP or Cybersecurity Masters. Could you speak to that? Because I could tell you that is honorable. The masters, especially. I mean, we're not on the great doctor level yet, but I could say
Not on
the
Dr. Joseph's level, or your
right
masters.
the masters was a big pinnacle for me as well. Like it was like the showstopper, and I felt some doubt obtaining it. So
Yeah.
having gotten it and awarded, let's speak to that. What is your goal behind the need or drive to get a cybersecurity master or the CISSP for that matter? What is some of your outlook there?
So my goal too as well, because if I'm doing something, I think I have the level of perfectionism, not extreme, but I just, if I'm working somewhere, I always say, okay, how do I be the best at it? And for me, being the best at it would be a CISSP, because it validates your experiences. Given, never mind, I just have 8 months of experience in cybersecurity, but it validates your experience over a period of time. So I may not do it right now, because even if I do the exam now, which I don't think I have the time, but if I do the exam in the next couple of years, I need at least 5 years of experience before I could actually earn that
Yeah.
certification. Or even a master's, if the opportunity presents itself, I would do that, because before I started studying, I would have gotten distracted. So I had to do a whole rewiring of my brain So my brain
Mhm.
actually enjoys studying now versus before the whole COVID or before it started. I would say it's just boring and I don't want to study. And I just think
It's
that's
like a
the
chore.
worst use. Yeah,
Right.
I thought it was a chore, but it brings me a lot of enjoyment now just to learn something or to just challenge myself. Because when I was
Yeah.
doing my CCNA, it was super challenging. It was like, if someone does their CCNA, I'm telling you, they deserve a lot of respect for the in-depth material that's covered, and it's just on that level of challenging. So when I was doing that exam, it really pushed me. I could CCNA like every month. Every month I would be like, okay, I'm gonna quit this. This is not for me, because when I'm learning material, it was just so much, and I just had coworkers who kept, jeering me and pushing me and say, "Oh, Val, when are you gonna do your CCNA? You've been studying for a year now. How many years? 2 years? You're just exaggerating." It was really just less than a year. So I pushed myself, and throughout that period, I enjoyed learning the material. So even though it was challenging, it's really, for me, learning something new is ultimate thrill right now. So
Nice.
that's why I could see myself going further or in getting a master's. Who knows? I could be a doctor, Pinnock one day, but
Of
I just
course.
don't limit
Absolutely.
myself anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
If you could speak to 10-year-old Valeena, knowing what you know now, everything you experienced, what would you say?
Yeah. Wow. 10-year-old Valeena, I would say that she is smarter than she thinks. I would say to
Mm.
her to just go for anything that she wants in life and not be limited by what others have to say or what she feels, and let her know that validate her to know that she is enough and she can do
Mm.
anything she puts her mind to. So that's what I would say to my 10-year-old self.
Nice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's great. All right. We need to ask you another one, another big question. What is your top coffee? What type of coffee do you drink?
That's a big
At the end
question.
of the- Yeah, that's a big.
I, yeah. Yeah, for me, my favorite coffee, I do love coffee. My favorite coffee is just regular coffee with cream and sugar. So for me, that's that. I do love a cappuccino here and there, but it has to be perfect. I used to work in a coffee shop too as well, so I know
Oh,
what a
so you
good
so you so
coffee.
you
Barista
you have
level.
standards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have standards.
Coffee
Yeah, I
master.
know the perfect.
Right.
I know what the perfect ratio of steamed milk to foamed milk versus the coffee. Yeah, so I know all of that to make a perfect cappuccino, perfect macchiato, whatever the espresso shot. If you don't have the crema on top, it's not perfect. So yeah, I
Oh,
mastered the world of coffee. So
Nice.
that's
what is
beautiful.
yours? Yeah,
For me,
yeah.
so yeah, my favorite, so my daily driver is an Americano.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh, you're this. Oh, that's
yeah,
that's not for the
but
faint of
but
heart.
but for there's one thing I probably don't agree with. I don't do cream or sugar. Like, to me, I call that
Oh,
foolishness. Just give it to me black with no foolishness. Don't put that in my coffee.
that's
I
that. You
don't.
got that. You got that respect there.
So I
Yeah.
have to say the same quad shot Americano with 3 sugars in a
Quad.
row.
Whoa,
Yeah. So
your
that
heart
so
okay?
watch. So yeah, that comes from that was the first drink I actually had when I was working in the Apple store. So that was like the driver, and it stuck with me. And the regular one, I'm thinking I'm doing Lancaster Redding, which is like a PA coffee, a regular coffee. I have not mastered my espresso machine yet, so I'm actually right there with you. I need to learn how to master a perfectly timed shot at home to make the Americano. But that's my favorite too. But I usually do a quad shot if the day is slow.
So as we get ready to close, just lastly, if you could just share, just like, what are some of the hobbies, activities that you like to do, just to, when you're not studying, or like I said, pursuing the CISSP or possibly a doctorate, like what are some of the things you like to do to decompress and relax, or just for fun? Well, what does that look like?
Oh, what I'd like to do for fun. Before I mention that part, I just have to
Hmm.
say that one of the driving factors, or the most important driving factor in my life, is my faith or my relationship with God.
Yes,
I don't think I mentioned that before, but it is the most critical to everything that I do.
make sure we get that in.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Make sure
yeah.
it's on the
It's the
pod.
most critical is that my relationship
Yeah.
with God has really strengthened me and given me a different perspective and view on life of myself and what I can do So that is the driving factor to most of my success. Because if I didn't have that relationship with God, I probably would have quit because I would just allow self-doubt to win versus just believing
Right.
what God said about me versus what I felt about myself, especially on the days of self-doubt. So that to me is what I needed to put at the first. So that should be the first of my
Right.
introduction. So what I do for
We
fun,
understand. We get it.
yeah, yeah. So what I do for fun, I do like to go to church, and I do like helping people in terms of, because I recognize that it's not just me who have the doubts or limited mindset that I needed to overcome, but I do know that there are others too as well who have so much potential that we can do so much more with our skills and our abilities versus just thinking in such a box or thinking of this limited thinking about ourselves. So I do see myself like helping people, just
Nice.
just getting them to see themselves at a different level or see the world at a better way than they usually see. Yes, there's a lot of bad in this world, but we can help with whatever little that we can do to make the world a better place. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be like, just having a lot of money to do something, but just what you can do to impact the world. So that's what I like to do for fun, helping others and going to church and studying. That's it.
Nice.
That's amazing.
What do you gentlemen do for fun?
So I read a lot.
Yeah, there it
I
goes.
read a lot. I'm very faith derived as well. I think the more I know to help people rely on me is why I do cybersecurity as well. I think there's a humane aspect there. I like to watch Marvel movies to relax and cope. So I stay abreast to the latest Marvel universe happenings. And then now I garden. So I believe it comes full circle. For every cybersecurity incident I find, I'll plant a new plant in my backyard or contribute to my
Big is your
garden.
You
garden?
gonna have you gonna have
It's
a
a
How big
small
forest.
is
Man.
little. It's about a
Okay, it's good.
10 foot
Good. Not
run
a lot
right
of
now.
extent.
Yeah, not a whole lot yet. I'm still killing a lot of plants, but I hope to use that as a motivator to influence like some peace. Some peace while I do the job.
Good. That's good.
Yeah. For myself, very faith driven as well. Especially I was looking back early on, my career getting started, and Alfredzo and I, we even talked about it in our initial episodes. So I won't take too long on this, but as far as for fun, going to the gym, I'm always having headphones in my ears, so I'm always listening to like different podcasts. I love my Knicks, so I'm watching like sports, either watching the game or even going to the game. That's always pretty fun. Lately, I've been really getting into hockey. So if I'm like going to the hockey games, they're pretty exciting. So I really got into it around the pandemic. And I started getting into it. I went to a game recently with my friends, and yeah, it was really fun. So I actually put NHL probably right up there with NBA as far as fun factor, like going to the game. So, but yeah, same thing too. Reading, just trying to relax. Watching a good movie. Yeah, if there's a very good movie I could find intriguing, I like it. But I do have preference. Marvel. If you ask me between Marvel and DC, it's definitely Marvel. But yeah. But yeah, well, that's it for me. But no, this was good, Valeena. You've been a great guest. We enjoyed this time with you. Thank you so much for coming to the Cyber Coffee Hour. And definitely we need to have you come again.
Yeah, we hope to have you back.
Especially after you get the doctorate, we need to have it back on so I can address you properly.
I would be honored to be back.
As Dr. Pinnock, saying got to put some spec.
I like
put
that.
spec on the name.
I like
yeah.
that.
See, yeah, there you go. I bet you'll start studying right after this episode. After we done.
Cause the level up. There's the level up right there.
There you go. Yeah, I put no limits on myself.
Absolutely.
If it's possible, if it's a dream or desire, and it's the will of God, then I will go forward. So yeah, thank you. And thank you, gentlemen, for having me. I must say it's a pleasure. As I mentioned in the first time we spoke, I was really surprised when you reached out because I really didn't think much of myself in the sense that, what exactly is there.
You're a big deal. Are you kidding me?
I
just
probably
read off
definitely
a few
heavy hitter
pages of
now.
your accomplishments here.
What did you say?
you're definitely a heavy hitter now. Like you got it. There should be no doubt that you got it. The ball. You're doing the job, and you're definitely doing an amazing job. So.
Thank you. But I think too as well, in Jamaica, we have so many people like myself who overcome obstacles or just had a redirection. So there's just so many stories in Jamaica, like Jamaicans, because we're really resilient. So I didn't really think that it was something that was out there. I just put my story out there because I do know that there are others in my situation who have probably gone through and say, what exactly is there to do, or have an interest in something but never really did it because they never think that they have what it takes. So that's the reason why. So I was really happy when you reached out, because it was really just to encourage others. So I really didn't have any.
And we appreciate that too. We want to get that out there for others that may have the same struggles, right? The same struggles getting into this industry.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thanks again, gentlemen, for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
That's great. All right. That's it for this episode. Thank you, everyone. And we'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.